1, 2.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening, friends, and thank you for joining us for another installment of Let's Talk About Ice, coming at you live from Coffs Harbour. Boy, do we have a show for you tonight. Tonight our topic is about clearing the wreckage of our past. So the first half we're going to talk about the damage we've done to ourselves and to our loved ones, and then in the second half we are going to talk about what we did to clear that wreckage and why that process is important. Before I give you to Ben and introduce our special guest this evening, I just want to acknowledge some sponsors and housekeeping. First is don't forget, Ride Against Ice, the poker run this coming October. It's on 24th of October at Meakin Road, Kingston, Queensland. Please check our Facebook for details. For everyone living in the Gold Coast, grab a burger at Grilled Harbour Town. And don't forget to choose the AAIC bucket for your charity token. If you're looking for scented candles, wax and warmers, Sentis is doing a fundraising for Australian Anti-Ice campaign for the month of September. A percentage of the total sales will be given to our charity, and there's also a link on our Facebook page. For those of you who are struggling and need help, please don't forget our hotline, which is 1-800-NO-TO-ICE or 1-800-668-6423. There is also one more community initiative in Coffs that I would like to give a plug to. That is I don't know if you remember, but 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 4 weeks ago, we had a guest. Our guest was Luke Smith, and he has a community initiative in Coffs, and it is called Home for Now, Sobriety Living House. So it's a community housing for people who just left rehab and they want to settle in Coffs Harbour. You can call 1-800 number, not to ICE, and we can hook you up with Luke. Not only that, if you're living in the Coffs community and you're struggling with ice addiction, you need somewhere, a safe place to live. Please call our 1-800 number. I'll give you to Ben.
Thanks, Jose. Just want to say the last few shows we've done down here, we've had a positive response. People have been engaging and seeking advice, and from what I've heard up the Gold Coast, people are overcoming this insidious drug at the moment in their lives, so that's good to hear, and that's what it's all about. Us coming together as ex-addicts and sharing our story, and in the hope that it gives other people the strength and courage to step out and seek that help that they need, because we genuinely do care about the people out there, and we can relate and understand what you're going through. So be bold. We hope tonight's show has has helps you to come forward and seek that advice that you need. Tonight we've got a guest, Nathan. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks, mate.
First, I'll start off, ask you a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what you're doing with yourself these days.
Yep, no worries.
So where are you from, Nathan?
I'm originally from New Zealand, but I grew up in a little town called Tumut in the Snowy Mountains, New South Wales.
I know Tumut.
Yep, beautiful little town.
Very cold down that way.
Yeah, very hot as well.
I think they had a bit of snow down that way just recently, haven't they?
Yeah, something like that, mate.
Yeah.
I don't miss it.
And so you're from down south, and to start with, you know, what's your experience with this drug? Because you're just like me, Jose. You once would have had a problem with it, I imagine. And just tell us, how were you first introduced to this drug?
I was first introduced to methamphetamines when I was 15. By then I was already a poly addict. I had my first beer when I was 8, and I was well on my way to a destructive lifestyle by the time I hit 15. And I was introduced because I had resources of drugs in other areas, and they wanted the drugs I had, and I wanted the drugs that they had, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a mutual barter system.
And I suppose at that age you're experimenting and just try this and that. I'm similar age. I started around about 15. Started off with marijuana and then went on to the harder stuff. And then, it started off as the recreational use, on the weekends, and then gradually that become more dependent. So I imagine that's happened with yourself.
I wish that had happened. You know, I was already using drugs, probably on a daily basis by the time I hit 15, and then then it was speed, and pretty much went to a 2, 3, 4 times a week within a month. Yeah, no problem.
And so, how old were you when you started realising I've got a problem here, and maybe I need to do something about it? What sort of red flags are coming up? Was it, your work, was it affected, or relationships, or, the sorts?
Yeah, unfortunately, by the time I hit 16, I was a poly addict, and I was already trying to commit suicide.
Right.
Yes,
can we just back up? What a poly addict? What's that?
So, a poly addict is someone that uses and abuses more than one drug at once.
Oh,
so, for instance, I was already, before I was 15, I'd use marijuana, ecstasy, acid, alcohol, different forms of prescription medication. And by the time at 16, you get heroin, cocaine.
Anything you can get your hands on.
Every and anything.
Yeah.
I was a distributor of...
So you're doing a bit of wheeling, dealing, and hustling and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And like you say, so you were, you're heavily into it, your teenage years, and this has spilled over into your early 20s, I imagine. And how long has this sort of lifestyle continued on for you?
It actually continued on until I'm 2 years, 4 months clean. I'm 43.
Well done, mate.
Yeah,
well done.
So 43 in a couple of months. So June's my birthday.
Yep.
You can do the math.
Yep.
So
you're a bit longer clean than what I am. So I congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
Because I know it's I think I'm about 16 months now. And it's a difficult road. Through my experience, the first 6 months was the hardest. I dealt with the depression, and then you're in limbo. Because you're changing over from a former life into a new life, I guess. And I sought help through the GP, and they were able to prescribe medication of antidepressant pills, and so that helped me, and also just doing what we're doing, forums like this, the NA program. That's where I hear that you met Jose, and
Yeah, it is NA. I'm quite big in the fellowship
Yep.
in Coffs Harbour and have been since. I first got introduced in 2004, but I wasn't ready to surrender.
Yep.
So 2015 is when I really got back in the roots.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then, you know, I first when I come down to Coffs Harbour, that's when I first went to the NA meetings. And to be honest, it wasn't what I expected. I thought it was going to be just a bunch of, you know, washed up old junkies that just crying into their beer or something like that. But it's actually, you can relate to their stories. They're blokes just like me and you. You know, the decent people that just happen to have an addiction for whatever reason that may be, but that were looking to overcome that problem they had and to move on and have a better life and a rich and full life. So in saying that, those of you who are thinking about going to an NA meeting, do so. Go and check it out and find out, you know, what it's all about before you even judge something like that. And I've met a lot of friends, you know. Jose's one of my best mates. There's a lot of blokes that I knock around with. You become part of that community, you know. You start to get to know each other, help each other out, you know. You're working at the moment with a couple of blokes that, from the NA meetings and that, so...
Yep, sure am.
Yeah, no,
So if you do want to find it, it's pretty easy. It's na.org.au, and that'll bring up a list of NA genres,
Yep.
and you'll see NA meetings, and you can just plug straight onto that, and it'll give you the meetings
Yep.
throughout Australia. AA is a little bit different, so it's aa.org.au, and you actually have to tap on current meetings, and it'll bring up the closest meeting to you
Yep.
on your phone or your laptop, so it's quite accessible.
Yeah, that's great. And you're chairing some of the meetings, don't you, yourself?
Yes.
I've chaired a couple of meetings myself. It's good, you know, give back and, you know, to be part of it. So, and also there's the numbers that we give you with the Anti-Ice campaign. If you contact those numbers, they've got counsellors, they've got advice. I don't know, can you see that? It's 1-800 66 86423. So if you are battling some form of addiction, especially the ice addiction, ring the number. Don't hesitate. It may be for yourself, it may be for a loved one. Go ahead, seek that advice, and start the road to that recovery so you can move forward and then start enjoying your life. Now, the topic of tonight it's about clearing the wreckage of the past, and I guess for me it's been relatively new to being clean. Like I said, you've been clean longer than me, so there is a past that's fairly raw for myself. So, you know, some of what we talk about tonight is it's going to be a little bit, you know, confronting, but the fact that I'm able to talk with you guys about that and be part of that and share that story with you guys so you can relate to it, I hope that helps. But
It's about the experience, strength and hope, isn't it? About
that's
unity.
exactly.
Unity together.
So I was going to interrupt quickly. We just want to acknowledge people who are watching tonight. We are experiencing some difficulties with the audio, and I just ask for your patience. I'm hoping it will get fixed as we go along, but if it doesn't, I sincerely apologise for that. So
Can the people hear us now?
they can. There is a bit of a static. There is an interference.
Okay. All right. So Nathan, are you able to talk to us about some of the wreckage of your past in regards to, you know, your health, the communities, your family, relationships, work, legal? Tell us a little bit about your you know, the damage that you may have caused.
We haven't got long enough, so I'll put it in a short description. You know, as you were hearing earlier, I've had a extensive history of drug abuse, and along with that drug abuse comes the ripple effect of my actions. So I've lived in 5 states in Australia, and I've lived in New Zealand, so 2 countries, 5 states. And I was a part of the distribution of many forms of drugs and the crime and lifestyle that went along with it.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine all the people. It's not just the drug addict that gets affected, it's their family, their friends of their family, etc., etc. So, you know, my ripple effect of my actions is honestly probably tens of thousands of people, if I'm being honest about it, you know.
Yeah.
And not to diminish the addicts and the people that I've heard along the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's many of them, you know.
And I guess once you stop and you're of that sober mind and you're able to reflect on that and be honest with yourself, then you really come to an understanding of what damage you may have caused. And like I say, for me personally, sometimes it is hard for me to keep that thought because, you know, I do bear that guilt and that shame that I have caused others and the people that I've hurt. But the story here, or the message we're trying to talk about here is dealing with that damage, and so you can move forward in life. So,
Have you been to prison?
Yes, I have been. 2016.
Yeah. How long was you lagging?
I went in 3 months the first time and 3.5 months the second.
Do you have a family?
Yeah, I do.
How did that impact them?
My mother actually got terminally ill, and she ended up developing tumour-sized growth, cancerous growth in her stomach. She never told me about it, but that ended up happening to her. So she goes every year now to get tested to make sure she doesn't have cancer spread anywhere else, you know. So that's just my mother, let alone my sister and stepfather and my children. My children are in New Zealand, so I'm actually estranged from my children. They live in New Zealand with their mother because back in 2015 I actually chose ICE over my kids because my inability to be able to deal with emotions on any level, my coping mechanism was self-destruction. And so, I'm only just learning now that I'm only just learning to become a man. You know, before 2.5 years ago, I was a 41-year-old or 40-year-old male, but I had the emotional intellect or emotional maturity of a 3 to 7-year-old dog because of traumatic events. So,
yeah, I know I can relate to that. I'm 40. It's only been in the last 12 months, 16 months where I've really sort of grown up and stopped running and hiding and using this drug to mask whatever else is going on in my life, and be accountable and be accountable for what I've done and who I am and take control of my life and direct it in the direction that I want to, end up going. And Jose can testify the same sort of story, being around that same age bracket where you sort of come to your senses and realise, am I going to keep going down this track and, one day be 60 and say, well, that was a waste, so...
Were you using when you were in New Zealand as well?
yes, yeah, I sure was.
And
ICE is a big epidemic in New Zealand. It's different. New Zealand's a lot different to Australia. There's a lot of gang culture. I've got a lot of family involved with the cooking and distribution of meth, all kinds of drugs. I've got a lot of family quite high up in different gangs throughout New Zealand.
some of the wreckage and this is not my own experience because I was one of the lucky ones who had never had any kids, I guess. So I never had any hostages that way. I had other hostages, but not children. But, I've been in places where, in housing unit or apartments, where parents are using and children are there. Have you had that experience? Do you know any?
Yeah, I unfortunately haven't that experience. To start off with, it definitely wasn't like that. Just before my daughter was born, and then when my daughter was born, I didn't use like I'd have 2 to 3 drinks throughout the week. I was pretty pretty driven to want to buy a house within 3 years. I had goals, and then me and my partner couldn't communicate because I didn't know how to communicate effectively. We didn't communicate effectively, and you know, we're both addicts. You know what I mean? And so I allowed that to come into our household, and then when my son was born, I didn't stick around. You know, he was born. I went on a bend for 12 days. You know, and then I had no home to come back to. Yeah. Unfortunately, I smile about it now. That's because I feel uncomfortable, and so I smile when I get uncomfortable. It's one of my coping mechanisms. Unfortunately, you know.
And I've got children myself, but I reflect on my past, and when I was my partner, they did have children, and you know, you say, oh, I wouldn't do this in front of them, I wouldn't do that, or all this sort of thing, but I think, you know, at the beginning of these sort of, you sort of put up these boundaries, but by the end of it, these boundaries, they don't exist anymore. You know? So, you know, I think to myself, I'd never do that, but when I reflect and look back at it, that's exactly what I was doing, you know, and that's what we're talking about, that carnage, that damage, not just to, you know, that partner, but their children, or, you know, and the people, that ripple effect of everyone around.
Yeah, definitely. Back on those boundaries, I think for me, I never had any boundaries because I never had any self-worth. You know, I always thought that I was a mistake, that come to that shame, you know. Guilt is, I've made a mistake, I can do something about it, but that shame is, I am the mistake. And that's what I've been led to believe, because I was a product, as a kid, I was a product of my environment. As a young adult, I believed it still, and then as an adult, you know, you got free choice, but I was powerless to be able to do anything about that. I didn't know I could hand my will and my life over, and, you know, to God, and things would change. You know, I had no idea about that. You know,
We'll bear that in mind, that shame and guilt, and we'll unpack that some more in the second half. We'll unpack some more in the second half. In the meantime, let's keep exploring that wreckage. What else? You know, you talk about the first time we started using it, and it was kind of fun at first, and then it became a routine, became a habit, and then it was this necessity to function, and we started running away. I don't know what we're running away from. We're running away from something, right? And then suddenly it becomes a driving force of our life. We live to use and we used to live, and then after a while, there's certain risks become acceptable, and after a while, consequences become acceptable. You know, so it is okay not to put food in the table. I suppose it's okay to be homeless. It's okay to go to prison.
Yeah, and I guess you gotta find that what your limit is, and you know, and for some people that rock bottom is it's
everyone's rock bottom's different, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Some people have a rock bottom and they've still got a job. You know, I congratulate those people. Some people have got rock bottom and they've still got a family, or they've still got a house. You know, they've still got money in their bank. Their name is cleared. I congratulate. I applaud those people for being strong enough to stop. Yeah. Some people's rock bottom and they're still teenagers. You know, I applaud them because I wish I had got back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess a full-blown ice addict. This is what I believe. You know, a full-blown ice addict is never capable of stopping. It's just not possible. You know, and you talk about rock bottom, and I guess you need to hit a stage of some semblance of rock bottom where you want to get out of this place, but you don't have answers. You know.
So I remember a rock bottom in 2016 when I went into jail. I was 58 kilos. I had a stab wound in my leg. It went in 1.5 inches, just missed my femoral artery. It was 3.5 centimetres wide. I thought then that was a rock bottom, but then I got out of prison on bail. I went into a aftercare rehabilitation in Wagga Wagga, and 9 weeks later I was back in full-blown addiction. within a week of leaving the program. Then I went back into jail, and I thought, oh, I haven't hit rock bottom, and even I was stabbed in jail, so in the lung and the liver, and so fatal wounds. I got let out of bail, and in 9 days I'd gone on an ice bender. I'd ended up in a psychosis in mental health, and because I'd breached my bail conditions, which was I didn't report at all. Even first day I got out, I didn't report. I ended up choosing to go back into jail because I thought that was a better option, and I still hadn't hit rock bottom. So I got let out again. Charged, let out, pleaded guilty. They gave me my time spent, and within 3 weeks I was on the run. I was in a psychosis, and I found myself back in the watch house again.
For those who are watching, can you give us an example, a situation where you've experienced psychosis? Because it's very real to most addicts, and I've experienced that a bit, and that's due to a very prolonged period of no sleep. Well, what was your experience with psychosis?
The first time I ever had psychosis, I was in New Zealand. I was rolling around because we lived on the top floor of a building apartments. I was rolling around on the roof because I thought I was under surveillance, and there was all these bigger buildings around me, and here I am creeping around on all fours. I thought I was fully under surveillance, and I couldn't even leave the house. I was that paranoid about the voices. And
that's a common one. The paranoia. The authorities, they're after me. Like we talk about, you haven't slept, and the outlays of the shadows, they're moving, and we just call it the wiggy monsters, and so you've got these paranoid thoughts going on. You're actually hallucinating. You're weak. You're not in a good state. So I've experienced that one. There's one that I didn't experience, but it was also quite common, is the bugs under your arms. Yeah. So you get, a lot of the girls, they get that. They'll pick at their face for hours, and
I had a friend, he had the bugs on his hands, and so he just used to butcher his hands continuously, chasing at something that wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think there's another one. They put apart electronics. I used to do a bit of that. Pull apart electronics and all this sort of thing. People will go through like the rubbish bins, and they'll pick out stuff and it's we used to call them bin dickens. Anyway, but pick out, they find a shirt and keep it. But it's just it's part of that psychosis from the drug.
Realistic reality that you created in your mind.
And because of the way the drug works, it masks. It masks feelings, it masks emotions, it masks your sleeping, it masks your appetite. So that's why you stop eating. So, and you stop all you try and go without sleep, being sober. You can't really go for longer than 2 days. And here we were going weeks, week on end.
I remember my one was I had to go out. Someone sent me to take some money out from the ATM. And I was gone for apparently 1 hour, and I come back and I had no money from the ATM because apparently, according to them, I told them I was under surveillance. The coppers were outside and they're following me, and when I went downstairs to point out the police, it was a little old Chinese man sweeping. I said, "That's the one." And he pointed him out as the police. That's the reality of it. We just lose track of what's real.
The delusions become so unreal, so real to yourself, don't they?
And we can have a bit of a giggle about it now, but the truth of the matter is, it doesn't end well with some people. They do some heinous things, and they're in jail for it, or things that they can't take back. I can't think of anything worse than waking up. You've been put in the holding cells, and then you wake up and come to the realisation I've hurt someone, and now I have to face the consequences.
Again, if you're watching tonight, we did have some trouble with the audio earlier on. I'm going to check that out again. So we apologise again for technical difficulties we have experiencing tonight, and I'm hoping that it will get fixed in the next half an hour. So we talked about that, how I refer to as a wreckage of the past, and I guess the next half, let's talk about what we do, because you mentioned things like guilt and shame, right? And when we kick off the habit of ice, it's not just about being abstinent anymore. You know, a very big part of the fight is with regards to emotional sobriety, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's really a process of clearing the wreckage of our past. And that's very important, because at the end of the day, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So do you know, why don't you start, Ben, and I guess we can get Nathan to.
Yeah, and that's a big part of my recovery. I think that's the most challenging part for me at this moment of time, coming to that realisation now that I'm of a sober mind, that realisation of what I've done and who I've hurt. Even, you know, some of the garbage you used to put on Facebook, you know, I look back, you know, say 12 months ago, and I'm horrified. I'm thinking, oh wow, delete, you know. But I kept that profile because I thought, no, you have to own some of this, Ben, you know. And so.
It's also a good reminder to look back and realise how far you actually come.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Like, you know, and even the people that are on my Facebook friends, that they can see now the person I am, and you know, I'm doing things such as this, and I'm with the Salvation Army. So, and then I get that feedback, you know, Ben, you're doing the right thing. Congratulations. And even from people that I was in the scene with, you know, that they're happy for me. So that's encouraging for me. And you know, I guess that's where having that Christian sort of belief now, it's good. You know, I'm part of a good intention. I'm around people that are that genuinely care about my welfare, and I'm able to, you know, with this guilt and shame that I still carry, I'm able to put some of that to the Lord, and I pray about that. There's a comfort for that. And you know, I may not get some forgiveness off everyone, and I won't. Some people I can't even approach. But, you know, I know that I'm a changed person, and I don't have to live in that sort of guilt and shame, even though I'm still overcoming it. I know I'm a new person, and you know, I still take one day at a time, but it's getting better. And you know, to come as far as what I have, I'm more than happy with that result. But you know, each person's their journey is different. I mean, tell us a bit about your.
Before you, I just interject quickly. I just want to explain something here. When Ben talked about the program that worked for him, there are a number of different recovery programs out there, and tonight what we are talking is what worked for us, what worked for me, and what worked for Ben. It might not work for you. What you have to do is there's a site recovery program, for example, and mine. What worked for me was a program called the 12 Steps, and you know it obviously doesn't work for everyone, but I know many people where this program actually helped in their life when they recovered. Sorry, Nathan.
No, that's okay. Yeah, the Smart Recovery, I actually had a little bit to do with it down in the Western Sydney. So it's actually a different aspect, but you know, I found everyone's recovery is different, isn't it? You know, for me, you know, the making amends and the clearing of the wreckage of my past is about accountability, and it's about accepting the things that I've done and owning it, and not running from it, and you know, opening all those dark secrets, shining some light on it. And the thing this time in recovery, and I say this time because I've had many times in recovery, I'm a chronic relapser. This time in my recovery, I surrendered my will and my way. I completely surrendered. I was in a Christian-based rehab in Blue Mountains, 180 TC plugs. Yeah, I was actually there, and I came to believe that a power greater than me can save me from me. You know, I couldn't externally, I couldn't forgive myself, and I didn't trust male or female to be able to forgive me. So, you know, for me, when I fully surrendered and just let go of my will and my life, I come to the realisation that, you know, God of my understanding accepts me for me. He forgives me for me, and he loves me unconditionally. You know, and for me, that change that really opened my heart to understanding that, you know, I'm no longer contained by those chains of the shame. Because as I was saying earlier, you know, the guilt and shame is the guilt is, you know, I've made a mistake. The ownership is I can make amends, and whatever consequences to that action, you know, come along with it. But the shame was I am a mistake, you know.
Yes.
So this time in recovery, definitely that aspect changed.
And I think that's the key thing for with our story is that forgiveness and that unconditional love. That's not a guaranteed thing of men of the world, but it is with God. And you know, I can testify the same story. That's what has helped me. That's what keeps me from relapsing. And I'm glad to hear that you say that, because, like you say, you were a chronic relapse, and until you tried that new method of accepting God into your life, and that's what's worked for you.
Yeah, it has worked for me.
With ice addiction, there is a physical aspect to addiction that requires abstinence first up, right? We need to have that period of abstinence before we can move on. And next part, I guess, of that, after a period of abstinence, that when you're clean, is that your reality hits you in the face. And that is, hey, you've been clean now for like 12 months, and guess what? This is what happens now, life. And you need to feel all these things that you've been running away from, the things that you're avoiding, you now need to feel. And those things, like you mentioned, the shame, the guilt, the doubt, you know. And there's a period of time too we're victims. I was an addict because this happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, I was an addict because this happened to me. And I kept going to prison because, you know what, my using was great. And the only reason why I kept going to prison is the police keep interfering in my life. So I become the victim. But you know what, those are the things we address when we say clearing the wreckage of the past, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's about ownership, you know.
Responsibility.
If you definitely, if you want to progress in your recovery, then you know, you've got to face what you've done. You've got to face, you know, like I've got all the big traumas in my life, you know. I as a child, I had all the justifications to act in the way I did. When I became an adult, I had free will and I had choice. You know, I could choose to do something about it, or I could continue playing a victim role. And you know, I've turned the victim mode from a victim to a survivor, but now I've turned that over because I hand over my will is to a thriver of life. You know, so now I plant the seed and I share. You know, I was one of those addicts that thought I could never be saved. You know, I was a bad heroin addict at one stage. I was on methadone program. You know, I've had pneumonia 3 times because of my addiction. I blew up in a caravan. I've got scars on my neck and on my arms and legs. You know, from drug abuse. That's, you know, I've got many stories. You know what I mean? I've done my 9 lives and then some, from overdoses, suicide attempts, people trying to take my life, from, you know, people been shooting at me, etc. Like, you know, I just didn't understand that I was totally powerless. You know, I was totally powerless.
Yes.
But you know, I'm sitting here now, 2 years, 4 months, and a couple of days, clean sober by the grace of God, as I understand Him. And I've known people in the fellowship. They don't believe in God, but they believe in a higher power, because you know they need that external strength, that external belief that can save them from them, because that's what it was for me. I needed to be saved from me.
That's right. I guess, I was critical about this word, this concept of higher power, you know, and I've had to really look into this. And what it does is that it gives us the lowest common denominator, right, for a group of people that are like-minded who want recovery. And we don't all have the same understanding of God. Some of us have, you know, have biases, and because of our experiences in life, we don't usually agree of what that God is or who God is. The higher power gives us that common denominator that we can work on, and that's what worked in my life. I had a very big problem with God because God was the cause of my problem, you know. And it's not unique to me, and it's not unique to you. It's the story of humanity. If we are to believe the creationist theory, for example, where when God asked Adam, "Did you eat the fruit?" and then Adam said, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I did that." No, that woman you gave me. It's the victim. I'm the victim here, God. Do you understand where I'm going?
Yeah, exactly. Instead of realising how his own free will,
Yeah.
you know, he was finger pointing straight away,
That's
which
exactly
is
right.
definitely
That's
what
exactly
I've done
right.
in my whole life.
So I like that concept of God because, and I said before, that how I got clean was through this 12 step. And part of the process of cleaning the wreckage of my past is that I need to be able to offload and tell people exactly what I've done. And I need to admit that. I need to admit it to three individual people, right? First one, I'll call people, lack of a better word, is God. And that's very important because God, at that point when I did the program, that step was that absolute moral authority, yeah? So I can't wiggle my way out of it, right? There is an absolute moral authority. Because if my high power was not a human being, 5 human beings will have different moral values, right? So what's acceptable to one may not be acceptable to the other. But
You can probably manipulate a human
that's
being
exactly
anyway.
right. That's exactly right. So that was very important. And I need to admit myself to cement that, hey, I've done it. And then I admit I'm not a human being. And that was a process I had to go through. And then I had to examine the defects in my defects of character. And I had to pray that God remove those defects of character. And then I had to make a list of all people that I harmed. And I had to make amends to them, unless doing so would harm them. Is that?
Yeah, and that's the position I'm in at the moment because there's certain people I won't be able to be in contact with. There's a couple of exes I don't think will ever see my face ever again because I was a bad person back then, and I don't blame them for not wanting to see my face. But so I have to accept that. I've the forgiveness from my family and then the fact that they're happy for me, that's good. That helps me to move on. Another big one is forgiving myself. That's one I struggle with today because I always thought of myself as, I'm a man and I do the right thing, but if I'm brutally honest with myself, no, I've done wrong thing. And I hate this word, but I'm going to say it anyway. In some cases, I've done a cowardly thing. And I regret certain situations because I always said, I would never do this, I'll never do that. But, towards the end of my using days, it's that whole scene, it's a dog-eat-dog world. I was just as much, played my part just as much as the next man in that scene. So, being relatively clean, only new, and at the time you're in a drug-fueled state, so a lot of the things that I did are still only just coming back to me, in my, those hours that I'm drifting off to sleep, I'm thinking, I've done that. And sometimes I get to a situation where I have to say, it's just no more, Ben, stop thinking about this, I want to go to sleep now. And so I do, I do my best and I stop those thoughts, but the fact that I can come up on stage and talk about it with you guys and hopefully sort of interact with the audience and they can stand and say, I know what this fella's going through. That's going to help me through my recovery because it's about helping each other where we need to. So these things there is still carnage on my path of my past, and I'm still figuring out how to move that out of the way so I can forget about it and move forward and enjoy life the way it's meant to.
Still, people you need to make amends to, you haven't been able to? Or
Yeah, I've definitely got people that I've made amends to. I just want to share this a little bit. So this is out of the Bible, but it's a serenity prayer with the room twist. So it's God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, courage to change the people I can, and wisdom to know that person is me. That unforgiveness of self, that's my hardest. I'm on the top of my forgiveness list, and I find it very hard to forgive myself. But coming to amends people that do not want my apology, that do not want to hear it. I've traumatised them significantly. There's, you know, and that'd be selfish of me to try and do, you know, that'd be me fulfilling my own needs, me running on my own will if I was trying to make an amends with someone that I've severely traumatised. And that's including parents of you know, the drugs that I've sold, that their kids have died, committed suicide, and et cetera, you know what I mean? Like, that'd be selfish of me to try and put my own means ahead of the welfare of another human being. And if I was in addiction, I would do that. But I'm not, you know, I'm clean and sober by the grace of God, you know. So, you know, I've got to remember to get some guidance behind that, you know. My kids, my boy turned 6 on the 13th, and my girl is 7, my little girl. And now during my ice age, because I call it an ice age because I first used ice in '98, and you know, during that age when my kids were born, up until I got clean, I spent one birthday and one Christmas with my daughter, and I didn't spend any with my son. You know, and now, you know, I'm lucky I've got a birthday and a Christmas with my son as well, and 2 Christmases and a birthday with my daughter. You know, these are the gifts that recovery has given me. But, you know, like, what I can do to, especially my family, is be integrous in my walk and be clean and sober one day at a time. And people just want to see that, you know, I'm walking my talk. I'm doing that. They don't want to hear all the blah, blah. You know, for a lot of people, it's just broken promises, and they heard it all before. You know, especially an extensive history of not being able to be trustworthy on your word, you know, no integrity whatsoever. Like, you know, like, you think you've got morals and all these things when you're in the game, but really, like, you know, it's just a false facade of you know, those false beliefs. There's nothing tangible for me. There was nothing tangible about it. You know, it was.
The nature of some of the hurts that we've done is such that we can never make amends. And that's the consequences of what we have done. And the best amends we can do, really, is how we live our life today, so that we will never hurt another human being the way we have hurt others in the past during our using. Now, would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, there's things of the past that you can't make up for. And I've never really talked about in the public, but you know, my actions. I've had partners, and I had a partner once, and she fell pregnant, and we looked at the ultrasound, and there was 2 little heartbeats on her, and I wanted the babies, but I was out of control, and she terminated those babies. So that's something that I have to live with, and that happened again. You know, 18 months. 2 years after, again for a different partner, she fell pregnant, and she went on and terminated that baby because I was out of control. Now, there's nothing I can do to ever change that, and you know, I feel responsible as you know for those 3 little souls, but all I can do is not go down that path anymore. If I keep doing that, then you know, then I'm at fault even more. But I hope to have children one day, and the only way I can do that is to stop doing that lifestyle. So they're things I can never change. I just have to accept, and with no amount of apology or anything's going to bring back that. But I feel I'm doing the best I can do, and you know, that's all I can do. So yeah, that's what I can say about that. But you know, that may need counselling or whatever, but talk to people about that's difficult, but I've got a comfort in God as well, so that helps me a lot to get through that situation.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a thought then, which is, you know, as long as I'm the same person at home and I'm alone as what I am in the light in front of people, then, you know, I know that I can look in the mirror and, you know, love who I am. You know, one day at a time, I can see that I'm growing. Even though my head tells me a different story, in my heart, I know my intention is true. You know,
and it's about that. It's about, at the end of the day, having a clear conscience.
Yeah.
You know, having a clear conscience. When I put my head on the pillow, I can sleep well tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's when all your thoughts do come, and that's when you're at that moment of truth. You can't really lie to yourself. So if you can acknowledge the past, but acknowledge as well that's not me anymore, and that I'm willing to change, and I am changing, then I think you can move forward, in life.
They say your past is likened to a rearview mirror. You're driving along and you can just see it. It's just behind you. But as long as you don't live in it, it doesn't become a part of your reality. But you never forget your past, because you're doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
So you've always got to look on it and reflect, and that also it reminds me how far I've actually come. Because there's some days where I think I'm not even growing. I'm that same person, because those behaviours, it wasn't the drug and that I had a problem with. It was life's terms, and those behaviours were there before the drugs took part. The drugs were just the mask, because I had identity issues. I don't know about you guys, but I had identity issues.
Yeah, the deeper seated issues go on.
If you're listening at home, this is very important, because you take away the drugs, what you're left with are still the reasons why you need to use in the first place. And so emotional sobriety, and this part of the program is very important. And you hear us use word like recovery, and when we say recovery, basically it just means the journey of getting clean, not just from abstaining from the use of ice, but all the work we do to become a normal person as much as we can, a person who can stand and be comfortable sitting on myself. How would you summarize your journey in recovery?
Man, it hasn't been a bed of roses, I'm telling you. It has been up and down. There's been some testing times.
It is a struggle for me, and it's a heartache.
Yeah.
So keep going. Sorry.
Definitely a lot of growing pains. They call them growing pains, and but I wouldn't change the growing pains for anything. It's making the men who I am. It's making me human. It's making me understand and figure out exactly who I am. Because I don't know who I am exactly, but I know who I'm not. I'm not all those lies and those beliefs from the past. And one day at a time, you can get better understand that. And through fellowship and through connection is where you can learn that you're not alone in the world. Which I think that it's an amazing part. Like the rooms of the church, the rooms of NA, AA, GA, whatever establishment, smart recovery, anything. Even talking to a complete stranger that's been there, because I've found I've had people come up to me that are complete strangers that have heard my testimony and just opened up and said, "Oh man, that happened to me as a kid. And I'm going to tell my parents. I'm going to talk to my family about it. Or I feel that we're connected because we've got that common bond, that similarity, which is, we're not bad people. We're just sick people wanting and willing to get better. And I think that's the fundamental key.
Definitely. I think that the key to successful recovery is interacting with people, getting that support network around you that you need, whether it be from the NA fellowship, whether it be from the Christian community, whether it be from forums such as this, or just touch base with even with blokes, as long as you're strong in your recovery. But even if you touch base with people that are still currently in addiction, like me and Jose, we deal with a lot of people that are still in addiction, and in the hope one day that they'll be successful in their walk. But
seed, so that way
exactly
how it grows is in our hands. But for me, my role is in recovery is to plant the seed and hope that it will grow. But how it does grow is not up to me. It's not in my hands, But that's that form of giving back, when you say.
Yeah, definitely. And at the end of the day, they're human beings, and we were once there. There's a lot of them. Most people aren't bad people in that scene. That they might not be doing the right thing, but you take that drug away, that they're completely different people. And they may be, for whatever reason, they're using that drug and it's turned into an addiction. That's a different story, because we've all got our reasons. But we're in this journey together. People that have experienced, especially the ice use or some form of addiction, and you know, the best thing we can do is banding behind each other and support each other, help each other. My success of with my recovery has been having that support network around me. If I had it isolated, it would have been very hard. Now, I know with the COVID going on at the moment, it may be difficult for some people, but you can still get in contact with people. And like I say, we've got phone numbers. We're happy, you know, get in contact with the Anti-Ice campaign. They've got counsellors there, and they've got people that want to help. And we generally want to see people recover. You know, as people, as Christians, we care for each other. And, you know, whether you're in sin or not, you know, you're still a human being.
And that number is 1-800-NO2-ICE. That's 1-800-NO2-ICE. You know, we've talked about, it was mentioned tonight, the 12-step program that got us clean. For me, the 12-step can be just summarizes into 4 things, you know. First, there's a grace. We believe in God or not, we just call it a higher power. It's a grace that whereby I woke up one day and there's awareness that there's something fundamentally wrong with my life. If I keep going to prison and I'm walking around with nothing more but a black garbage bag with donated clothes, and I'll call God's grace, the awareness there's something wrong in my life, my life, it's seeing my life as it really was, and not the delusion I had in my head as an ice addict. And second, you know, if I have to summarize 12 steps, it was grace, next was faith. My recovery is a journey, right? And it's a journey of discovery, and discovery that there is ultimately now a God. And when I discovered the truth about God, I had to change myself, you know, because now I know I can't trust my thinking. And what got me clean is to hand my will over, to hand my thinking over. Because until now, I still can't trust my thinking. Because we all have free will, but guess what? That free will is only free to the extent that we will always choose what we want to, in our heart. And that always gets us in trouble.
Self-seeking behaviour, wouldn't
Self-seeking
you say?
behavior.
And if we knew what was best for us, then we wouldn't be in that situation that we find ourselves in. So,
Did you say that faith was when you turn your fear into faith?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
that mind shift,
Yes.
and I think that also comes from that unity thing, to believe that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, something I wrote, which is by myself I can be weakened, but together we are strong.
That's
You know,
exactly right.
which goes into that faith, and it also goes into you know, church and the NA and AA. That's all about
Community.
you know, the longer members will love on you until you learn to love yourself.
That's
You know,
exactly right.
unconditionally, without anything attached to it. You know, and it's such a beautiful thing to watch. You know.
and it says in the Bible in Genesis that it's not good for man to be alone. We need to, you know, interact with each other. We're meant to interact with each other. You know, you've seen that Adam was lonely, so we made Eve. You know, so we're a communal creature. We need people around us, and when we start, you know, isolating and setting ourselves apart, that's when we're going to struggle. That's when the fear creeps in, the uncertainty, and whatnot.
Yeah, it definitely takes over. And like, I've only got to look at my life, 30 years of addiction, trying to do life on my own.
Yeah.
It didn't work, and I tried different states, different drugs, different jobs, you know, and it never ever worked, because at the end of the day, I was always stuck with me, you know,
Yeah.
and I was afraid, you know, I was afraid. And you know, one powerful tool which comes out of you know, a loving God, or the God of your understanding, and fellowship, is that love, that unconditional love that will bind us together no matter what, you know. And it's such a powerful tool. It changed my whole aspect and the way I've done my recovery.
That fellowship you speak of, you know, that is definitely my experience. I have my landlord, my sponsor, who was always there. I had a group of people who are like-minded, who want to get their lives clean and who are there to help me. And I gravitated to those people, and they were supporting me, and they drove me everywhere, you know, until I was ready or in the position to be able to do that myself. And that's absolutely right. That is the most important part in getting recovery is that sense of community, that belonging, that fellowship,
Yeah.
that there are people who will help you.
Yep. But you have to be willing to step into that circle, to make yourself available, seek out that help, and then allow these people to get behind you. That's the important thing. You can lead the horse to water, but you have to be willing to accept that guidance and that help, and be bold and think if you had enough of the life you live in, to do something about it, change that, and get behind, get involved with the anti-violence campaign, your NA programs, go to your local churches, people, get behind the people and they'll get behind you.
Well, we have reached the end of our show tonight. I don't know if I hope you had a good time.
It was great.
I'd
Thank
like
you
to
guys
invite
very,
you
very
again.
much. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
And it's been great to be back again.
Just before we go, Jose, I just want to say one thing. What have you got to lose if you don't give it a go? For me, I had my life to lose, so I was willing to try anything to live. And then, in order to live, I was able to break that generational cycle and give my kids a life that I've only ever dreamed of.
Right on.
And things are changing. So, what have you got to lose by trying something different?
That's right. And you've got a good job. You're back studying as well.
Yeah.
So life is definitely a lot better than alternative. It's one day at a time.
Yeah, it's about waking up in the morning and have a positive intention and living life to its full richness. That's what God always intended for us, to live that full life. So, don't waste another day. Get on board, guys. Ring the numbers.
And thank you very much for joining us tonight. And just to recap, we are all here today, and we can attest that just because we've stopped using eyes didn't necessarily mean that our loved ones, the people we've hurt, ran back into our lives with balloons and streamers. We still had to undertake a process that we call clearing the wreckage of our past, and includes making amends to people that we have hurt. And it's only when we clear that rubble away, that rubble that stood so long along our path, that's when we truly gain freedom. And thank you for joining us, and Ben will take us out with prayer.
So I'm going to just take it out in prayer. Thanks once again, Nathan, for coming on board. We just hope that the stories that were shared tonight are able to help someone out there. And from feedback we're getting from the previous shows, we are getting good results. So we'll just bow our heads, and Lord, we pray that tonight's show is a guidance and comfort to those who are suffering from this insidious drug, ice. Whether it is they themselves or a loved one who is suffering, we pray that what has been discussed has given them some form of hope, that they too can clear the wreckage of their past and move forward to live a life that is full potential, in which you always intended for us. Lord, we recognise all lives are precious, and that you have a genuine love and care for each and every one of us, including those lost in sin because of this terrible scourge on the community. Lord, we just ask that you touch the hearts of those that need you right now, so that they can muster the strength and courage within to take the appropriate steps in seeking further help to overcome this drug. Lord, we hope that our testimony is an encouragement to those listening right now, that they can overcome their affliction and go on to live a rich and full life. Amen. Thanks, guys.